the latest on 526, the green space around the county, to his own re-election bid, I talk one-on-one with Charleston County Councilman Brantley Moody for this edition of Quintin's Close-Ups. And if you haven't already, subscribe to my YouTube channel and like Quintin's Close-Ups on Facebook.
Charleston County Councilman Brantley Moody, welcome back to Quintin's Close-Ups.
Thank you, Quintin. It's been some time, but it's always good to be with you. And beautiful Charleston Visitor Center here. It's a lot of activity going on out here, gathering food and all that, so glad they could squeeze us in.
Yeah, thank God for that as well. Obviously, I'm bringing you back on Quintin's Close-Ups for two things. Obviously, 526, the referendum, of course, and your re-election bid. But let me go first to, obviously, the referendum. The Charleston County Council approved the Transportation and Sales and Use Tax referendum to appear on the ballots in Charleston County this November, as you know. The proposal referendum will actually provide $5.4 billion for road projects throughout the county, that is. As we say right now, do you know how many road projects are actually on that list?
Well, yes. I mean, let's jump to 526 first, okay? Our critics say, well, last time you didn't talk about 526 enough. It was done wrong. Well, this time we put it in bright lights, top of the list. And so now they say, well, we don't like the way you asked the question. Well, you just can't have it both ways. They just don't want it, they don't want it. That's fine. But we have multiple projects throughout the city of Charleston, priority projects, in addition to 526 throughout the city of Charleston, Mount Pleasant, North Charleston, and the town of James Island. But what that funding also does is it funds our green space, it funds our annual allocations, multiple other things. But the annual allocations are the things that are the funds we use to do our bike and pedestrian intersection improvements, the nice new walkways that clean up these intersections. So it's got a little bit of everything. So there's multiple. You can't really name the roads because, other than the priority projects, but because the roads are serviced and resurfaced as needed. So we take those as they come along, and we know which ones age faster than the others, so we can resurface those. But that's all included in there as well. So absent that, we're going to be in a lot of trouble.
So, I'm going to get to that in just a second. So, well, I know you probably can't name this too, but how many priority projects are actually on that list?
Well, there's roughly 3 to 4. The town of James Island's got 2, a couple of Mount Pleasant. And sometimes they're smaller budget projects, so you may have 4, for instance, in West Ashley that are not quite as expensive, but then you may have 2 in North Charleston that are very expensive. So we tried to line it up such that the numbers kind of came close as possible to each other. So how many projects you get under that bucket of money is how we tried to line it up.
So how much money?
Good.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah. So how much money is in the bucket for all of this?
So for the annual allocations, it's about $800 plus million. For that, that's these priority projects, all intersection improvements and things like that. And it's the crazy thing is money just doesn't go like it used to. A couple of years ago it was maybe $100,000 to do a right-hand turn lane off the highway. It's probably $350, $375. So if you take that kind of extrapolate it into these larger projects, you can see how much these things cost now. We're having groundbreaking tomorrow for the main segment A, Main and 17 flyover, and that cost is going up too. So I mean, it's just a matter of fact. We've got to deal with it.
What are the factors now? Is inflation?
Inflation, cost of goods, everything. And let's touch on real quickly this pay-as-you-go concept. That's a concept that a lot of our people that oppose this have trouble getting their arms around. It's a really simple concept. Pay-as-you-go means you start projects as you collect the money. But when they say, well, we gave them this money, they haven't done anything with it, because we haven't collected the money yet. As we collect the money, then we go do the projects. That's pay-as-you-go.
Kind of like TIF.
Yes, that's close. Where this referendum, we've included a second question that says, well, if you agree with this, can we also, if we choose, go out and borrow money? So the wrestle we had, and you can't have it both ways, is they'll criticize us for the piece of the pie that has interest expense, right? If we borrow money to get things started earlier, they criticize that, but then they also criticize and say, well, you have to start these projects fast enough. You can't have it both ways. It's either pay as you go or borrow. You can't criticize both, and that's what they're doing.
I hope we get the outside story on this.
That's the fact. There's no other side. That's the fact.
And anybody who's been watching Quintin's Close-Ups over the past 12 years knows that I've been talking about 526 on the internet right there. But if you were to go and borrow money to start projects right now, how much money would you need to go out and borrow that?
But it depends. It's all about cash flow. I'm in commercial banking, so it's a fairly easy concept to me. But you have projected needs, so we may not need the money until 27, 20, whatever it is, we may be able to fund some of that internally. So it's our finance people will figure that out.
So if you were to finance that internally, how much would that cost the county?
Well, it would be whatever the prevailing interest rates are at the time. So the county has a AAA bond rating, so we get the most attractive rates possible. But we just don't know when we would need it, so I can't tell you how much we would need to borrow or what it would cost until we need to get it.
What is the current price tag right now for 526?
Well, in our budget, it's $1.8 billion. If you look at the presentations we had, one thing that really it infuriates me is that some of that money and the timeline we've got built in is about 2 years and maybe $400 to $600 million in anticipated escalations because of potential lawsuits. So if you're a supporter of 526, that should just infuriate you.
And of course, I've gotten most of that side as well. But I wanted to ask this, because you mentioned this earlier, obviously, about inflation and all the things that are kind of impacting the start right now of this 526 extension project. So what are the current market conditions as far as construction for the 526 extension project?
Well, it's tough. It's competitive. We've got a lot of construction road building going on, not only in the county but around the state. With backing up the state with the new gas tax, our road contractors are stretched pretty thin. So if they didn't have any work to do, the prices would be lower. If they have a lot of work to do, so the prices are higher. So we just have to see what that looks like when it's time to start turning dirt.
When will you start turning dirt?
Well, that's the big question. That's what it could be a lot based on what our opponents do, because we will have our environmental record decision of record soon, and we think that's then when people will try to come after us. But as soon as we have dispensed with all the lawsuits, however long that takes, then we'll be ready.
How many lawsuits do you all have currently?
I don't want to get into this issues. Okay.
Let me ask you this.
In the weeds, anyway.
Sure, of course not. So let me ask you this. What will the county's environmental record look like 526?
Well, I hope it'll be clean. Our people say, well, the other people say, you're going to impact this, you're going to impact that. It's 7.5, 8, 9 mile road. You're going to have some impacts. And if the impact is the bridge is casting shade on a couple acres of marsh that will come back, I can live with that. But it takes wildlife into account and everything else. But the benefits, it's not even close. Benefits far outweigh any impacts.
So what will be the benefits?
Look at it. I mean, look at Johns Island. You've got two lane roads on there. It takes you an hour and a half to get to the airport. It's going to probably cut that in half. Ask anybody that lives on Johns Island. Ask anybody that lives in West Ashley or drives from North Charleston through my district to West Ashley. It's going to be huge. It's going to be huge.
I want to get back to that.
We've had study after study. The impacts of the benefits are not even close. Our opponents say, it only shaves 30 seconds. That's just a lie. It's fashionable to call it a mistake. That's a lie. When somebody has to go down 17, the main road, to come around onto Johns Island, they're only going to save 30 seconds. That's garbage. So it's going to save 30, 45 minutes off people's commute times.
As you know, a lot of folks, not even close, but you know a lot of people have moved over to Johns Island in the past decade.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this: Has the county went back and updated their study?
Well, so I'm going to approach that from a different point of view. Okay, people, opponents say 526, it's going to cause development. Really, that ship has sailed. It sailed 10 years ago. So the city of Charleston there's so many thousands of entitlements still coming out there. That growth and infrastructure. The growth is coming regardless of what we do with 526. And so the question becomes, what do you do with it? So many people don't move to Johns Island. So many people can't have their kids in sports in West Ashley or James Island because they can't get them there. So the people are coming regardless.
How is the county preparing for this?
Well, we're trying. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to get 526 done. We've got Main and 17 we're breaking ground on. Those are the things we've been trying to do. These projects just take so long. There's so many objections, there's so many delays, it's really frustrating. But these are the things we've been trying to do.
Now, half of the budget, approximately $2.5 billion, is going to one project, the 9 mile roads, which will make up the I-526 extension, as you know. The referendum includes 13 other smaller transportation projects throughout the county and also deserves priority according to people I speak to. So let me ask you this: how can the county guarantee that the other projects will get done in the case of really, say, for instance, cost overruns with this extension project?
Well, look at our track record. That's people say our track record is struggling. I don't think it's struggling. We've completed Glen McConnell Parkway on time and under budget. Airport Connector Road is going. Dorchester Road widening is going. The Palmetto Commerce Parkway that started, we've paved 400 roads in West Ashley during the last couple of years in my district. So you can say it hasn't been done, but look at it, everything's in process.
Is it possible that the entire budget could actually go towards this one project, which is the 526?
I doubt that, and I think Councilman Vice Chairman Honeycutt made a good point to council that once we have that environmental record of decision, that will then open the door to other funding sources, mainly federal funding sources. So we feel very confident there'll be other outside monies to come in, but we had to prove to the SIB, State Infrastructure Bank, that we could cover that locally. We've done that, and we think that budget will hold, and we think, in addition, we'll be able to get extra money that would free up funds for other projects. For example, the main and 17 flyover, I think we got $50 or $60 million from the State Infrastructure Bank. So we had budgeted whatever, thank God we had it because we had this huge inflation cost. But when we get money from the SIB, we get money from the feds, that's money that then frees up to go towards allocations or somewhere else. So that's been our record, and I don't expect that to change.
Okay, so what exactly is the funding plan for 526?
Well, it's the asset sales tax, what we're talking about. That's what we had to prove to the SIB. We're going to show the SIB that if we get this approved, this will be our dedicated funding source for Charleston County.
How long do you expect that to go for the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years?
Well, it's going to run its course, just like previous sales tax referendums done in 2004, 2016. So there's two catches. It's either you get to a certain amount or you get to a certain year. So the one we're trying to remove is from 2004 that reached its number earlier than its actual period we were planning to. So that's why we've got to hopefully put this replacement in, not a new tax, just replacement, back into to backfill that funding.
Do you foresee what happened in 2004 will actually happen with this particular?
I hope that we'll have smooth sailing. We'll see. But listen, the county council has taken it as far as we can. Okay, and several of us, Councilman Middleton made this point in council that several of us ran with a strong desire to get 526 back on track, and we were elected to do that. That's why we're doing it. 6 out of 9 council members featured that in their campaigns, and our constituents elected us to do it. So that's what we're doing. So we've taken it. We've identified the funding source. We've got SIB approval. We've got the referendum question out there. Now it's up to the people.
But let me ask you this. The state, as you know, has obviously, as you just mentioned, earmarked $420 million as its extension. So will any cost overruns actually come out of the county's taxpayers?
Yeah, the county is responsible for any cost overruns. The SIB has capped their number, which wouldn't it be great if we could get back with them and renegotiate something? We'll see.
Is that possible?
I doubt it. But all you can do is ask. All we can say is no. So we'll certainly try. But yeah, that's part of the formula is the county has to cover any cost overruns.
In what way will this extension of 526 actually bring more development to the area?
It's not going to bring any more development. It's already coming.
How much do you just
development follows water and sewer flow. You don't see development in areas where there's septic and sewer, or septic and well water. Okay, you can't do it. When water and sewer is there, development's coming, regardless of what the roads are. Roads don't bring development. Water and sewer does.
We all know, Councilman, that obviously several intersections that need to be redesigned to improve our daily commute, but the proposed allocation of $5 million a year to do so is only enough to make major improvements to a single intersection. Is that correct?
To a single intersection, about 526?
Well, as far as green space and yes, sir, green belt money and all that stuff.
Well, I'm not sure I understand your question, Quintin. Greenbelt money, we've got about $430 million, I believe, allocated for that, which is like twice what we've ever done. Our opponents will say, well, it's smaller as a percentage fraction of the pie. Well, do you want hard dollars or you want fractions? I'd take hard dollars. So the county's record in green space preservation, whether it's through easements or acquisitions outright, has been impeccable. Nobody can dispute that.
Well, let me ask you this, Dan. How much funding will be reduced for green space if the referendum passes?
No, that's a different bucket. I mean, you're asking what I just answered. So if our percentage of the total pie last time was 12%, I don't remember what it was, it's now 8%. So our critics say, well, you're reducing the percentage of the pie. Well, the pie is 2.5 times bigger, right? So we did 200 million, whatever the number was last time, it's now 430 million. What's better? Twice as much money, I think.
Yes, sir, and I want to get back to that in a second, but also bike pedestrian improvements that you just mentioned, I believe, get only $5 million a year, and another paltry sum given to the county's estimate of $142 million to add missing sidewalks and multi-use passes along Rivers Avenue, for instance. should that $5 million at least be doubled?
Yeah, ideally, yeah, but we can't do that because we have certain limits that we're allowed to raise the penny sales tax. So we're going up to the limit we can go up to.
Now,
Or I should say, keeping it at the limit we're at right now.
do you see that changing the next 5 years with all of this growth?
See what changing?
As far as, more people coming out to bike and more people walking and more people.
That could be. I mean, it's, we've got the BRT coming. That's a big deal. We hope to see a lot of growth in that corridor. We can go any number of ways with this question. All these people coming here, do you have infrastructure? We're trying to. Are you trying to do green space? Yes. We're trying to do BRT? Yes. Where are you going to put all these people? We could be here all day talking about that. So, but yes, it's always a catch-up game with infrastructure, but this will help us try to catch up and keep pace.
Speaking of which, while that proposed allocation for road resurfacing and pavement preservation will be at least $18 million, I believe, an increase from the current $5 million available, how will the public councilman actually evaluate this to see whether or not it's sufficient?
Well, look in District 7. Has your neighborhood road been paved? Probably. We've paved 400 roads in the last couple of years. We're having a groundbreaking in Quintin the 3rd, for the new Church Creek fire station, EMS station, and Passive Park. That was a Greenbelt project right in the middle of my district. We've got ongoing drainage work just completed on Boone Hall Road behind C. Williams. Yes. We've got drainage projects going on in Air Harbor along the Greenway. We've got our funding for the DuPont Wapoo drainage basin. So how will they know? That's how you know. You see these things getting done.
Now, there's no part of money for improving safety and traffic flow. This would include work to add several turn lanes to reduce backups, and obviously,
I would dispute that. This is all about safety. I mean, it's all about general safety, quality of life, moving people along. To say this isn't to do with safety is just incorrect.
Do you believe that at least $10 million per year is actually needed for that?
Well, safety is $5.4 billion. I would take exception to that. It's $5.4 billion worth of safety, in my opinion. So I'm not. Every project we have, every project we touch, will have safety features just about built into it. And if we can't build into it, we're going to try to accommodate it under the existing structures that we have. So the concept of complete streets, if that's where you're going, is taken into consideration with everything. For instance, in my district, Old Town is a big project we've got coming online next year. There's going to be sidewalks, beautification, mast-on lights, raised crosswalks, all added through there. So every time we touch an intersection, Sycamore is another one. That's another one in my district that's ongoing that will connect the bikeway across St. Andrews Boulevard to the other side. Dangerous connection there. So we're going to make that happen. So bike ped is taken into consideration with all these allocation projects.
So what is the percentage of funds for Greenbelt projects?
I think it's about 8%, I think, is what we're proposing this time. And again, it's like $430 million.
Now, in the 2004 referendum, as we just talked about, that got 17% of total revenues. In the 2016 vote, it had dropped to 10%. Okay. For 2024, only 8% is actually proposed. What, in your mind, Brantley, should be an adequate Greenbelt funding that will actually help us serve the county account?
The way I see it, Clint, is we're going from $200 million to $432 million. That's a pretty good jump to me.
Now, in your mind, should that Greenbelt funding actually remain at 10%?
I don't know. I look at the hard numbers. I'm not a fraction, percentages guy. If you asked me if I had $200 million last time, would I take $432 million this time? I would say yes, I would take that.
Now, until November actually gets there, how will the voters actually have a better sense of priority and timing of all of these projects?
That's a good question. Well, we've got obviously a pipeline we're working on. The public, whenever we do these projects, we always have, it's so open, it's so transparent, it's so public. When we announce that we're going to have Dorchester Road widening, come to Jerry's Upper Middle School and see what these different plans are. And we set up this room, and there's 8 different easels, and you can see all this stuff, and you can put your opinions in. So the county evaluates, county staff, transportation staff evaluates which projects need to come online, and then recommends to council, and that's generally where we go. So, but the process is so transparent and open. 526 has been that way. We had meetings all over the county. People could come and put their opinion in. They could do it online as well. So transparency is huge. There's nothing hidden.
I'm looking forward to the Dorchester County Press coming soon in my neighborhood. But back to 526, if the county runs out of money for projects, as it did for the 2016 sales tax, which projects might unfortunately be dropped?
I can't speak to that. You're talking 25 years down the line, 30 years down the line. So I don't know the answer to that, but it would probably be a position where the 2016 sales tax referendum may be sunsetting. We may need to try to renew that to continue on these projects. I don't see this ending in our lifetimes because we've got to keep up with the growth.
Now, are any of these council members, including yourself, are you actually concerned that everything else will be delayed until 526?
None is passed, none is stopped. I'm not concerned about that at all.
In regards to 526 and extension, where do you all put the additional water when it comes to environmental impacts?
Where do we put the additional water?
Yeah, because there's going to be a lot of environmental impacts.
I don't agree with that. Everything we touch with regards to Glen McConnell Parkway, for example, that project took 7 years from approved funding, at least 7.5 years. It took 2 years to build it. 2 years, so 5.5 years of environmental, engineering, all that stuff. Any project we touch, we've got to make sure we're not pushing water out, doing this and that. It's a convenient excuse for those that oppose this to say it's going to flood out everything. That's nonsense.
What plan do you have in place, for something like this to happen in the next 5 to 10 years?
What plan do we have in place for
environmental impacts?
Well, as I just stated, everything we touch has got to go through environmental studies to find out where our weaknesses are, if there are weaknesses, how we mitigate it. If it's going to blow the place apart, then obviously we can't do it.
What weaknesses do you have when it comes to 526?
I don't see any. Our opponents see, a couple dozen acres in a 9-mile project. I think that can be mitigated very easily, which we've already done. So I don't see I see the benefits of the safety and quality of life for our citizens of Charleston County so overwhelmingly surpass any of the impacts that people are saying.
By implementing, say, for instance, a local rebuild back better recovery programs afterward, would it likely knock down the needed scaled investments without even more significant incentives or subsidies to offset the inherent risk, thereby challenging the favorable tax and cost structures?
I've never heard of that. I don't know how to even answer that.
The county's proposed continuation of the half-cent sales tax, which voters will actually see in November, includes $750 million for Carter. Carter, I believe, $750 million. So why does the county keep pumping taxpayers' funds into the entity that can actually make a profit right now?
Well, it's about moving people around. It's about getting the most vulnerable of our citizens that maybe cannot afford a vehicle, maybe don't have a place to park it, can't afford the upkeep or to purchase one. We have to be able to move people around. And long-term, when the BRT, getting people to consider, BRT is done right, if it's efficient, if it's on time, if people can check their email, take a nap, get them to work quicker than they can get in their car, people will use it. If not, it'll be a problem. People won't use it. But having that available to hopefully alleviate some congestion on our roads is you just can't ignore that potential.
Is that BRT even realistic right now?
Absolutely. We're well into that process. So, Ron mentioned that Kyle will probably give you a blow by blow down to the penny where we are on that. But
you're not asking a lot of hard questions.
No, that's not. We are. It's well along. Matter of fact, it has to be because we have $350 million, or rather part of us, and $350 million in federal grants have to meet certain timelines. So I think I just saw an email the other day that they're about 60% through the design phase, which is in keeping with the time frame to set up that grant money.
How can voters approve another sales tax when barely any progress has been made on the projects funded due to prior transportation sales tax?
Yeah, we already covered that, Quintin. The pay-as-you-go concept is not difficult to understand. That's a convenient argument for people that say, well, so if we would have borrowed the money up front, they would have criticized us for the interest expense to borrow that money. But we chose, or prior councils rather chose to pay-as-you-go. So pay-as-you-go is a very simple concept. It means you start projects as you collect the money. So when somebody says you got a 7-year-old tax and you didn't build everything on there, it's ludicrous because you haven't collected 25 or 30 years worth of money yet. So you've got to collect it before you can go. Now, again, Glen McConnell Parkway is a prime example, on time and under budget. Dorchester Road, Airport Connector, all these things are ongoing. Public hearings are happening. So those things are in process. I take great exception to that because people, again, they argue about interest expense in the 2024. They say it's too big of a pie, but then they criticize you because you haven't built so much already. Can't have it both ways.
Well, how can you be fiscally conservative and then authorize the county to actually spend $75 million on the right-of-way of 526 when you don't know if the referendum will actually be passed?
We feel very certain it'll be passed.
How so?
I check the polling. I mean, I saw my opponent on the other day, and she was like, it's 50-50 in West Ashley. My polling back in 2012 shows it more like 70% of West Ashley. When you get outside of 526, it's more like 75%. We'll see how the whole county shakes out. But District 7, it's not even close.
Now, let me ask you this then, because I wanted to ask you this earlier, obviously with, growth and whatnot. But when it comes to 526 and this referendum, are there any real estate appraisals for this?
If you're talking about right-of-way acquisition, yes. West Ashley, DOT is the project manager, so they would probably know the most current stuff. Most of the property that needs to be acquired in West Ashley has already been acquired. There's a couple of commercial properties that have to be acquired. But as we get closer, the right-of-way process will begin. And yes, appraisals have to be ordered on different properties. Sometimes, oftentimes, the owners of those properties will order their own appraisals, which is certainly their right to do. Sure. And then there'll be some kind of negotiation to figure out what the true price is.
Going back to growth quickly, when it comes to growth here in Charleston, what exactly is the county asking developers to do to help with all of this growth that's coming here?
Yeah, there's, so a lot of this is it's not this, but I mean, a lot of this is in the municipalities. So we end up sort of dealing with what hands were played. Do developers, and should they have a bigger bite of the pie if they're doing something to make sure the infrastructure getting to their property is better? I think that's something that should be considered.
Let me turn to your re-election quickly. Okay. Obviously, you've been on the county council for the past 4 years. I interviewed you when you were first mayor.
Probably in 2015.
Exactly right. And you're a host in West Ashley. From that time to now, what exactly have you done for your constituents?
Well, as I mentioned, it's first of all, it's been my honor to serve a place that I love, that I grew up in, that I raised my family in. When I ran, it was all about infrastructure, and it still is about infrastructure in West Ashley. When I ran, we were getting nothing. As I mentioned, over 400 neighborhood roads have been paved. Working with our state legislators, I think my opponent said the other day she wasn't aware of any projects going on in West Ashley. I almost fell out of my chair. But working with our state legislators, Highway 17 is being paved, Old Town is being paved. Roads projects, Quintin, from Savannah, Savage, Savannah and Stinson and DuPont, Savannah and Wahoo, connecting the bikeway and the greenway, Savannah to Avondale, Savannah to Stockbridge, coming up Old Town, Sycamore and St. Andrews Boulevard, Old Town County Park coming online, Old Town intersection, like new library, renovated libraries. Now going up 61, we've got some projects in asset sales tax looking at that corridor down there. The new Church Creek project coming online. In a new part of my district, working with our state legislators to get 526 and those off ramps at Paramount and Wando Woods down there.
Yes.
So the list just goes on and on. I'm extremely, extremely proud of what I've told my constituents I would do and what I've done, and never have voted for a tax increase.
Charleston County Councilman Brantley Moody, thank you for your time. And again, welcome back.
I'll take Brian.
Brian.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.